evening, San Bernardino. I am very excited to be here with you guys tonight. I will let it get kicked off. This video tonight is in response to the meeting from Wednesday at the council meeting and some admissions that went on. So there's been a lot of communication, a lot of questions, and I think we need to cover it because these are the type of things that cause litigation. They cause problems, and I want to make sure that we as a community have our discussions. So, okay, I see that we're up and running. Now, the focus of tonight, because I know we had covered the SLA, the Surplus Land Act violations letter that we received from the state of California. The conversation tonight is, what did Theordore Sanchez, the city staff, and city attorney know about the Surplus Land Act violations before the letter came, and when did they know it? So let's kind of get into this real quick. So the key players, and there's going to be one more we're going to have a discussion about. The key players right now that we're really looking at from the top left is Theordore Sanchez, councilman in the 1st Ward. The previous city manager, Robert Field, next to him. Below, right, one more over, the guy on the end, the bald guy, that is the city attorney, Thomas Rice. The guy in the middle is the previous development director, Mike Huntley. And then the guy with the glasses right here, that is the current development director, Nathan Freeman. There is one more person named Stephanie Sanchez, and she is now the economic development manager, and we're going to talk about her as well. So these key players right here were involved. Teddy sits on the ad hoc committee. Robert Field was the city manager. Thomas Rice provides legal advice to the city under BB&K. Mike Huntley was running the department. Nathan is currently running this department. Why this is important, for any of you that were able to watch the latter part of the council meeting, Theordore Sanchez, in the videos posted onto my Facebook, made this huge admission that he and everybody has known for years that the city was violating the Surplus Land Act with regards to the development of the Carousel Mall, that this should not have come to any surprise to anybody. Well, color me surprised, because I've been following this for years. I've spoken at meetings, I've supported them. You guys have been there with me. We wrote emails, we called in. We have been watching this process step by step by step. And apparently it's been a facade, because only certain people knew that this development was never going to go through because of these violations. So let's look at this. Now, this is from the actual background of the presentation delivered by the city. So I'm just using their own information. May 19th, the city council and the mayor authorized a request for proposals for the development of the Carousel Mall. 11 statements of qualifications received, 5 companies reviewed. Nowhere were there any questions about the surplus land brought up. December 19th, staff presented the results of the RFQ to the city council for their consideration. Now remember, Theordore Sanchez was elected and sitting on the dais this entire time. BB&K was our attorney this entire time. Michael Huntley was the development director. Nobody said anything when they narrowed it down to the top 2, SCGA and Renaissance Downtown. April 2020, they get another RFP response. Teddy's on the dais. Nobody said, hey, this is a violation. Nobody called out that the council shouldn't take a vote on this from the city attorney's office, nor from any elected official. October of 2020 comes. The staff conducted a workshop with the mayor and council on the status of the Carousel Mall and alternatives for development of the property. No conversation. If you guys remember this, this is where Valdivia and Robert Field tried to demolish the mall for $10 million, and we called them out for that. Nobody said, hey, you guys, are we in compliance with the Surplus Land Act? Mr. Sanchez apparently knew the whole layout of how it was supposed to go. The city attorneys know how the whole surplus land. Nobody said anything. January of 2021 comes, and staff conducts another workshop in which they're having a full discussion about the project and the development concepts. You can review all these meetings, no discussion, no calling out. Then February, at a special meeting, the mayor and city council approved of the motion to discuss the results of the RFP and the options available at the March 3rd meeting. No one said stop. Have we checked to make sure we're in compliance yet? No. Next month later, as we all remember, staff represented the results of the RFP and provided the mayor and council with several alternative considerations. This is where we first see Robert Field present that he doesn't like any of the developers and he wants to subdivide the downtown. This is also the night that I spoke with Theodore Sanchez, where he wanted to go with the option to subdivide the downtown. He said that the developer couldn't possibly have the money to complete what needed to be done. But if the majority of his colleagues wanted it, he was going to support it. So the next day, the council goes to vote. SCGA's pulled out. Fred Charette and Councilwoman Calvin talk highly about this project, the support of the project. There's 72 public comments, and we are asking for our Riverwalk. We are saying that we want to accept the request from proposal from Artie Ico. And never once did Theodore Sanchez, Thomas Rice, Sonia Carvalho, city attorneys, Mike Huntley, Rob Field, Stephanie Sanchez ever say, stop, you're in violation of the Surplus Land Act. We need to first look to see who wants affordable housing. That's not in any tape. In fact, Teddy voted to approve the project. The vote was 6-1, Juan Figueroa dissented. Then we go to May, and the city goes out for the Surplus Land Act. Now, I am not a surplus land person. It's not my field of study. I don't particularly know the nuances of it, other than the city was required to go out and see who would want to develop affordable housing. So they send out the requirement, and it's supposed to be for 180 days. So August of 2021, the mayor and council adopt a resolution after the ENA, after the SLA process is over, to execute the original ENA with the San Bernardino downtown RDICO for 120 days, or till March of 2022. March 13th of 2022, the city enters into its first original ENA extension for 90 days to June. Then in June, they extend it again. And this is happening in closed session, by the way. This is happening in closed session. In August of 2022, they approve a third extension to the ENA. So let's make sure we're super clear. No time between the first original approval of the ENA, the first extension, the second extension, nor the third extension did the city attorney, nor Theodore Sanchez, nor Mike Huntley. Actually, this is at a different time. I'm sorry, Nathan Freeman is now with the city because he came in March. Nor Stephanie Sanchez, nor Theodore Sanchez, not related, by the way, they're not related, ever say, stop the process. Because while we are not privy to closed session, what we do know is that had there been a vote to rescind this violated act, multiple violations over and over again, it would have been reported out. But that didn't happen. Nobody said anything. So we kept going. September 29 of 2002. Now, here we are. It's 2 years later. And Lincoln Properties, so RDICO, which is required in their ENA, brings on a larger development company, a huge financier. They finance billion-dollar projects all throughout the United States. They come on in September, early August. And then they pulled out. Less than 60 days later. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I jumped. Let me make sure. Okay, August 3rd of 2022, the city enters into this negotiation with Lincoln Group, who is brought in by RDICO to be the larger financier of the project and to bring more development. Now, it is a requirement in the ENA, the Exclusive Negotiations Act, that agreement, I'm sorry, a negotiation agreement, that RDICO bring in other developers for this project, including affordable housing developers, because there's a requirement still that they were to build affordable housing. It's a state requirement. Well, between August and September, Lincoln Group pulls out from the project. Now, remember, they stated, just the economy and, other factors. Well, the other factor is what we just learned, the SLA violation, the surplus land. So in October, RDICO writes a letter confirming, because if anything happens with Lincoln Group, they get to come back in and resume their ENA. They said, yeah, we're going to have to come back in. Then in November, finally, because if you have looked, that there was no meetings, 18 months, no meetings, they finally met with the ad hoc committee to discuss a pathway forward. In January, the Carousel Mall ad hoc committee met with staff to discuss the status of the project. These are not televised or public meetings. And then in February, the ad hoc committee met with staff again to discuss the project status. Here's the thing, still during this time, Theordore Sanchez is on the ad hoc committee. He's sitting in the room with Nathan Freeman, with Rob Field, with Mike Huntley, with the BB&K attorney Elizabeth Hurl, who's on this committee. He's in there with Councilwoman Kimberly Calvin. He's in there with Councilman Fred Charette. And never once does anybody say, we are in violation of the Surplus Land Act. This is why Lincoln Group pulled out. We got a problem. We need to fix it. No, they don't. No one says anything. Then we come to March, just a month ago, and staff held a conference call with HCD to discuss potential violations to the Surplus Act. So sometime between late February, early March, someone drops a dime on the city. And they say, and the state reaches out and says, hey, you guys are violating your Surplus Land Act. And then March 16th, the letter breaks. And they're telling us that we failed to provide 90 days of good faith negotiations to entities. The city negotiated with the selected developer prior to issuing the notice of availability. City failed to give priority to affordable housing. City failed to complete descriptions of negotiations. Now, this is what this is what Councilman Sanchez was trying to act like everybody knew. So did we know as a community, and did the elected body know that the city negotiated and selected a developer prior to the issuance of the surplus availability, notice of availability? Yeah, they did. Did they know they weren't allowed to? Did anybody stop them? With Teddy knowing and admitting at the meeting, he was well aware that they had been in violation the whole time. He never said a word. I didn't know. The city failed to, the city failed to give priority to affordable housing. Well, that goes into hand in hand with selecting a developer before going out for the SLA. So those are right there. That makes sense. Those are two violations go hand in hand. You went into negotiations and you didn't give priority because you were in violation. Okay, understandable. Again, nobody said anything. Now, the city failed to provide 90 days of good faith negotiations to entities who had submitted notices of interest. Nobody knew that the city had received any notice of interest. And we're going to go through them because I have them. Except now, so we thought, right? This was the shock and awe moment. This was, oh my God, how could people who were previously here, because that was the excuse, right? Oh, this was done by people who are no longer with the city. Well, that's not true, is it? According to Theordore Sanchez, who knew the whole time. So if Theordore Sanchez knew, and we get our legal advice from BB&K, and they're guiding these practices, well, they knew, and we obviously know the city staff knew. So why didn't Theordore Sanchez tell? Because Councilwoman Kimberly asked him, did you know? When he was telling everybody that everybody knew, and she said that's a lie, because she had just been honest with the community. She felt hoodwinked. She felt lied to. They were withholding. In fact, we're going to go over her email. So Theordore Sanchez again failed to reveal that the city had received notices of interest for affordable housing. BB&K, the attorney, failed to tell the city that there were good faith, to negotiate in good faith with people who had been, according to Teddy Sanchez, it was well known. So then the city failed to provide a complete description of negotiations. So not only did they lie that they had ever been reached out to, then they lied about what any type of contact they had had. And we had that application. So those two things, the first, the city failing for 90 days, and then the city failing to provide the descriptions of the negotiations, those are the two things that up until Teddy's admission of knowing, nobody knew publicly existed, which makes me believe, and we'll get into this, that people were told to hide this information, and only a handful of people were privy to it. So let's look. Here's the emails. This is June 28th. And I'm going to try and go down. Let's see. Okay. Hi, Mike. My name is Nate Green, and I am reaching out from Boulevard Communities, an affordable housing owner and developer operating nationwide. Attached to this email is the letter of interest offering our company's affordable housing expertise in the redevelopment of the Carousel Mall. We are committed to preserving and promoting affordable housing in California and look forward to hearing back about our potential role in this project. Mike Huntley responds. He CCs George Sad and Stephanie Sanchez and says, Mr. Green, the city appreciates Boulevard Capital's interest in this property. It would appear that your interest is in a portion of the property and not the entire 43 acres. Is that correct? Please be advised that the city's intent to sell the entire property. However, the city will hold on to your letter and share the information with the future owner who may wish to master plan the property, dividing the site into different components, one of which may be affordable housing. Please let me know if you have any questions. Response to George, from George to Mike to Nate, CC Stephanie. Great, thanks, Michael. Yes, that's correct. Due to our specialization in affordable housing industry, we look forward to partnering with someone or purchasing a separate parcel directly to expand the housing for low-income residents in San Bernardino. So not only did they have a full conversation, they also submitted their letter of intent. We'll go to the next one. This is from the notice of interest. I'm trying to read it backwards. So this is from March 13th from Stephanie Sanchez. It says, good afternoon, Matthew. Let me make sure. Hang on one sec. Let me go. Okay, here we go. We're going to work our way backwards. Okay, June 21st at 3 o'clock from Mike Huntley to Matthew. Hi, Matt. Hopefully it's not Microsoft Zoom meeting. My computer's had issues with that. So they're scheduling a Zoom. They want to connect. Or just, sorry. Good afternoon, Michael. I left you a voicemail a few minutes ago, but I wanted to follow up with an email. I'm trying to close the loop on some records as it pertains to the Carousel Mall notice of availability that was sent out in June of 2021. The attached PDF is a string of communications you had with our then director, Mike Huntley. And I wanted to find out if you recall the outcome of the conversation you had. Was it determined that the project site would not be well suited for your company or development team, or were you only looking at a portion of the side of the property? Stephanie Sanchez, this year, this just came in March when they found out about the letter. Stephanie Sanchez writes again on March 21st of this year. Good afternoon, Matthew. Thank you so much for talking with me about the Carousel Mall properties. Summarize our conversation. Your recollection of the conversation with our previous director, Mike Huntley, resulted in Alliance Strategic not moving forward on the project and withdrawing interest in the property. If you could respond with a confirmation on this, I'll be able to add it to my file for project. And he said, yes, that's correct. Nathan Freeman, Nathan, please see the string of emails below from Matthew from Alliant. So let's not pretend that the people who were a part of what happened, the cover up, the lie, are not still with the city. I just talked to Stephanie Sanchez at the meeting. Nathan Freeman is the director. BB&K is still our attorney. Theordore Sanchez is still a council member and on the ad hoc committee. So, okay. Here we are again. If you guys remember this from the last video. Right, this one, I can't, I kind of screwed up. But if you look, number 5, it says, after issuing the notice that surplus land were available, did any entity express interest in the purchase or lease of the land? And they said, no. They said no. And it was right there. They had the letters, they had the communications. All they had to say was yes. And then they could have gone in and as the letter states, what Theodore Sanchez leaves out is, had they negotiated, had they said, look, we didn't even entertain for the full 90 days because it didn't meet the full scope of the notice of interest. They couldn't build out the whole 43 acres. In fact, one withdrew. All they had to do was tell the truth. But they didn't. and they lied to the state. Now, let's not forget that in October of 2022, after Lincoln Group had pulled out, Councilwoman Calvin wrote what is a very scathing email stating that the city manager failed. She says, city manager failed. I consider you're not performing the direct request to establish meetings, hosting meetings, and deliberately not inviting the ad hoc committee, providing ad hoc committee members with the necessary information needed to make the decisions in the best interest of our city, a derelict of duty. As an email was sent to you sharing good governance ideas, you failed to respond or address any of the suggestions with me. Instead, the ad hoc committee has been left in the dark to defend your lack of direction and choosing to ignore our request of being informed. It appears that you have intentionally chosen to leave the ad hoc committee out of the process, for which this is a decision you are not able to make. The ad hoc committee was voted and established by council. I can no longer accept the responsibility for actions I do not control. I currently am requesting that you immediately establish a meeting with the ad hoc committee to discuss all correspondences between you and the Lincoln Group and prior communication with RDICO through written reports. This meeting needs to be established by the end of this business week. All responses to this email need to be placed within the email thread so my ad hoc committee colleagues are each privy to the same information at the same time. We don't mess with Councilwoman Calvin. It's not what we do, nor do you lie to her or withhold information from her. Now, here's the thing. With all that said, what is sad is that Councilwoman Calvin, and I reached out to Fred Charette today. I didn't hear back, so I can't speak for him. Councilwoman Calvin was very honest that she didn't know what was going on. She had no clue why Lincoln Group moved out. She had no prior knowledge that any affordable housing developer had sent a letter of interest, had reached out to the city. Theordore Sanchez, he did. He said he did. He said that it was so well known. Thousands of people knew. City staff knew. The city attorneys. And never once since 2019, they never spoke up and told anyone the city was in violation. Never once. In 2 years, did Theordore Sanchez, the city attorney, nor city staff ever speak up and say they knew the city was in violation of the Surplus Land Act. Why? What it looks like is that elected officials like Theordore Sanchez were privy to information with city staff, and they made a conscious decision every meeting that this was brought up over the course of 2 years, not to tell the truth and to lie to their colleagues, to lie to this community, and to lie to RDICO, the developer for this project. And from everything that I've seen come out of Theordore Sanchez's mouth is a continuation to want to subdivide the downtown into multiple 28 parcels, which is nothing more than a pay-to-play scheme, just like Daddy Valdivia taught him to do. He goes out and drinks with the city attorney, Thomas Rice, like they're frat boys running this city, and all at our expense, because RDICO has expended millions of dollars on this project. And we could easily be sued now that Teddy has admitted that we have been negotiating in bad faith, knowingly violating the ENA agreement. You had Nathan Freeman go out into the public and tell everybody that He was out talking to other developers for this project in the downtown. You had Theodore Sanchez go on to another podcast and talk about the subdivision and wanting a P-bid down there. This whole thing right now, I believe we need a formal investigation. We need to know who knew what, when, and why. We need to know why. And we need people held accountable. It's clear to see that in many cases, Councilwoman Calvin carries the water of truth for this community. She was the only one to speak up and tell the truth and to apologize for something that she didn't even do, nor did she have any knowledge of. And then Theodore Sanchez spoke up and said, nah, we knew. So let's fail together. No, Theodore, you knew, and you let this city fail with your buddies. But what we do know is that they didn't win. They caused a hiccup, but there is no requirement for us to kill this project. We do not have to start over. All we have to do is go back out with the SLA process, and then we will pick right back up and correct the mistake and move on with our Riverwalk. And Teddy Sanchez will not walk away with any more political donations. The city attorney will just have to hang out with his little buddy and not be asked to meet with developers anymore. And the city staff, anybody and everybody involved that is still there should be fired. We cannot have people lying to our community. Neither can we have anybody lying to the council. I am probably one of the most critical of the council when they mess up. In this instance, I'm not critical of them, except for Theodore Sanchez, because he admitted he's a liar. And he admitted he withheld evidence. So thank you guys for watching. I know it was a bit, but I wanted to try and be as thorough as possible for tonight. We need to stay on this. We need to ask the questions, why? We need to make sure that the discussions are open and honest. As Kimberly Calvin pointed out, there is no note taker coming out of closed session. That means that it is a free-for-all. Whatever, people just feel like they can give whatever information they want. That's why Theodore Sanchez thought it was okay to go into the community and tell people, regardless of if we fix the Surplus Land Act, he is still going to work to get rid of the developer. We're not going to let that happen. I'm going to be posting the speech that Councilwoman Calvin gave and the comments made by the developer, so everybody can see. If you didn't see the newspaper, they did a good write-up on it. But I'm going to ask you, and I don't always ask, share this. Share this. Let's get the truth out. Let's make sure that Theodore Sanchez doesn't think that he controls the narrative with his John Valdivia smile, with that smugness that says, I don't care how bad I screw up your city. I'm untouchable. That's what John Valdivia thought. And so the same focus and energy that we gave him, we're going to make sure that we give Teddy the same, because he's nowhere near as cunning and as bad as John was. He just thinks he is. And so I appreciate you guys. Stay on it. Make sure that we stay engaged, educated, and empowered to take control of our community and to take control of our destiny. Remember, our best days and greatest years are so much still ahead of us. And this is how we get there. Accountability, transparency, and real talk. All right, you guys, have a super great weekend. And I will be doing an agenda review for the upcoming commission meetings this Sunday, and there is a special meeting on Monday of the council. So I'll be covering that all for you Sunday night. I'll put out the post, but thank you. And please share this. I'll be posting on Instagram and Nextdoor. Have a great night.